Hey guys, welcome back. So I've been watching and studying a few different dividend ETFs over the past few months that I think will be perfect buy and hold opportunities for the end of this year and going into 2024. DGRW is one that I've kind of been eyeing for a while now, and it might be one to start adding shares of to the portfolio. So DGRW is the Wisdom Tree US Quality Growth ETF that, according to its prospectus, seeks to track the investment results of dividend-paying large-cap companies with growth characteristics in the US equity market. I think one of the first things worth mentioning about this ETF is its expense ratio, which is 0.28%. Now, it's kind of up to you to decide if you think that's too high of a fee, especially comparing it to index funds that have expense ratios as low as 0.1%, but you're still only paying $28 a year for every $10,000 you invest. And despite it having a slightly higher expense ratio, it's still rated a B+ on Seeking Alpha since the median expense ratio is 0.48%. The total assets have been increasing every year and have more than doubled since 2020, up to 10.5 billion, which means that it's continuing to grow a lot in popularity. Looking at its returns over the past 5 years, including dividends, its return is just under 100%, with a year-to-date return of about 12.5%. It's also outpaced the S&P 500 over the past 3 years by about 4 percentage points. Something I also really like about this ETF is how diversified it is in terms of its holdings. It has nearly 300 different holdings that are all companies in the United States, with its top holdings being some of my favorite companies to invest in. We can see that Microsoft and Apple hold a lot of weight in the portfolio, with Microsoft at nearly 10%, but it also holds other big-name non-tech companies that pay dividends like Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, and Walmart. Now, this is a dividend growth ETF, so its yield is going to be slightly lower than funds that might only focus on dividend income, but it still pays a 1.82% dividend. And even though the yield is slightly lower than comparable funds, the dividend per share has been increasing consistently since its inception 10 years ago. It also pays out its dividend every month rather than every quarter, and it's always nice getting that dividend paycheck a little bit more frequently. What I really like to do with ETFs like this is backtest them to see how much we'd have today if we started investing in it at inception. So jumping into our little portfolio backtesting tool here, let's assume we invested $10,000 into DGRW 9 years ago, while reinvesting the dividends and adding $500 a month into it as well. Plugging it all in, we'd have over $137,000. And what's interesting too is the worst year out of those 9 years only would have been a negative 6.3%, which is actually pretty amazing because that year, in 2022, the S&P 500 was down over 18%. So I believe that DGRW is a perfect ETF if you're someone looking to invest in dividend growth without having to take the risks and doing the work of buying single stocks. So this next ETF has kind of a unique approach and a little bit different of a strategy, but I do think it's definitely one to consider buying going into 2024. This ETF is called COWZ or COWZ. So the strategy for COWZ is to match the returns of the Pacer US Cash Cows 100 Index, which is basically a list of large and mid-cap US companies that are not only making a lot of money, but have tons of free cash flow at the end of each quarter. And companies like this are typically referred to as cash cows, hence the name of the index and the name of this ETF. It's a very actively managed fund that rebalances the portfolio every quarter. Typically that's done every year. So they're frequently screening for companies with the highest free cash flow yield out of really any company in the US. It has an expense ratio of 0.49%, which can be considered fairly high, but I'd say its returns each year definitely make up for it. This year, including dividends, it's up 10.5% with a 5-year total return of over 100%. And its 3-year return is actually more than double that of the S&P 500 while paying out a dividend every quarter. Looking at its dividend yield, it's currently at 2.06%, but tends to fluctuate between 1.7% up to around 2.2%. So comparing COWZ to DGRW, what I really like about these two dividend ETFs is they have fairly similar returns year over year, but their strategies and holdings are completely different. The overlap between the two funds is only 5%, which really tells you that they would work perfectly together, hand in hand, in the same portfolio. So just those two ETFs today, guys. I was planning on talking about a few more in this video, but I honestly just ran out of time because of the holidays coming up. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think of these two ETFs, and if you already own them or are at least considering them for your portfolio. And I'll see you guys next time.